Venice, a city full of romance and a heaven for photographers, is one of the most fascinating and beautiful cities in Europe. If you're traveling to Italy without visiting Venice, your tour is incomplete for sure. Venice is a unique city built on a lagoon and surrounded by the Adriatic Sea. It's a group of 118 islands, all linked beautifully by 400 bridges. You just have to wander in the streets of Venice, and you will fall for its beautiful canals, Venetian Gothic architecture, gondolas, and amazing nature. But its location is considered to be the biggest threat to Venice's existence. As the sea level is rising, Venice is sinking, and experts are worried that it may sink completely as early as 2100. Wait, what? Is it true? Unfortunately, yes. But recently, Venice has invested $7 billion on its new project. But is it going to save Venice? If you want answers, then you have to watch this video till the end. So let's find out. Hello everyone. If you are new to my channel, then make sure to smash the subscribe button and turn the notification on so that you never miss any future updates. Many of you must know about Venice and must be aware of the phenomenon Acqua Alta, meaning high water, since this city was founded in the 5th century. But what is Acqua Alta? Well, this occurs when multiple factors are playing a major role. It's when a high tide, low atmospheric pressure, and strong winds start blowing from the Adriatic Sea, and the product of all this is nothing but just flooding. If you are visiting Venice, you should know that you're experiencing this phenomenon when St. Mark's Square is converted into a lake. But is the condition really bad in Venice? Well, if we have a look back in 2019, then the answer is yes. In 2019, 80% of Venice was under the water, and it was labeled as the worst flood in 50 years. But it's not where this tale ends. Reports have shown that the frequency of flooding has increased over recent years, as now Venice has to face flooding more than 60 times a year. Thus, due to rising sea levels, extreme weather conditions, and slow sinking as it was built on a lagoon with insufficient foundation, many people are now finding it difficult to live peacefully in this charming city. The ground floor of buildings and markets remains underwater, leaving these inhabitants. But if we look at the history of flooding, scientists have discovered an interesting fact. Studies have shown that 12 out of 20 above 140 centimeters water levels occurred in the last 2 decades, and they blame it on humans as the construction of artificial canals. Industrial areas are worsening and causing erosion of the seabed. But what authority of Venice is doing to save this city? Due to recent flooding and increased Acqua Alta phenomenon, authorities have finally completed its $7 billion Megaproject. They are hopeful that this project will make a difference. This Mega Sea project to rescue Venice is known as the NEOM, Modulo Sperimentale Elettromeccanico, or Experimental Electromechanical Module, is the project that is intended to protect Venice and the lagoon from flooding. In 1975, after the massive flood of 1966, a competition was held and experts presented their ideas of protective systems. In 1989, 3 years after the acceptance of this project, the NEOM was all prepared to be executed. But still, it took Italians a long time, and its barriers were started to be constructed in 2003. For sure, it was a long time. System is located in inlets of Lido, Malamocco, and Chioggia for stopping tides from the Adriatic Sea towards the lagoon. The gate consists of 78 metal segments, and when they are not needed, they are folded back into the base made up of concrete in the seabed. And when they are raised, they block the high waves of water from hitting the lagoon. These 78 yellow-colored gates are approximately 20 meters wide, 18 to 29 meters long, and with a thickness of 3.6 to 5 meters. By digging deeper into the functioning of barriers, it can be seen that when these barriers are folded, they fill up with water and rest in the concrete base in the sea to allow movement of ships. And when there is any kind of emergency or prediction of high waves, these gates are activated and are filled with compressed air so that they remain on the surface of the water. So, according to the design, the gates can remain on the surface in activated form for 5 hours. But if the situation is not good and there is the risk of flooding, these may remain activated for more than 5 hours. Interestingly, these can resist a high tide of 3 meters and are designed in a way to work if the sea level reaches 60 centimeters in the coming decades. As these barriers have separate gates, they can be controlled separately depending on the needs, sometimes in specific areas near lagoons at risk of tides. These gates are allowed to remain partially closed so that if any high wave hits, less time is needed to fully activate the gates. In this way, it not only saves the time of activation, but this makes it possible for large ships to access lagoons and Venice. The experimental construction was completed in 2020, and it took 18 years to build this complex structure. It's far more expensive than expected and has faced backlash due to delays by the corruption. It's often opposed by many environmentalists questioning its long-term efficacy, but it's still in use and is working today. But is this going to change the fate of Vince? Is this system working properly? Well, after it started working in 2020, it was an intelligent idea when this system successfully and strongly sheltered the city in October 2020 from a 1.3-meter high tide, and since then Mose serves as a profitable system. But unfortunately, in December it failed to stop a wave from entering the city. But we can't blame this system directly, as weather forecasts underestimated how high a wave can go, so authorities didn't plan to activate this system. This system also has some drawbacks as highlighted by the opponents. This system was designed back in the 19s and will not have preventions and measures to stop environmental degradation. Opponents have claimed that this system will further destroy the seabeds and life under the water. And still, the design is not fully equipped to withstand increased frequency of activation throughout the year. That's the reason it is only activated if the wave reaches 110 centimeters. And if the wave is 80 centimeters or slightly above, this system is not going to be activated. That's the reason still most of the area remains underwater despite a billion-dollar project. You must be thinking about why it is planned in this way. The simplest answer is this $7 billion system is not cheap to be activated. Interestingly, according to reports, it costs $320,000 each time the barriers are up on the surface of water. Huge, isn't it? And guess what? A group of 80 people is required each time to operate this giant manually, as it is still not completed and is expected to be fully completed this year. But what's more troublesome and distressing is that it is estimated that this system will push toward its limits as early as 2050 to 2060. But why is this system expected to fall? Experts believe that with rapidly increasing sea levels, the frequency of activation of these barriers will increase suddenly, and it will not withstand the pressure. Even if you visited Venice in 2022, despite the construction of Mose, authorities are now using glass barriers 5 centimeters long and 1.3 meters high in the city to stop water from leaking into the historical spaces. When the water level is low, these walls have openings, but once the tide reaches the city, the glass is sealed off. For sure, it's obvious that the city needs some proper measures and a reliable system to sustain these floods. And if authorities remain clueless about the ways through which they can support the Vince, it will surely become inhabitant. As per reports, every year Vince is sinking approximately 1 to 2 millimeter, and if this rate continues, then in the next 20 years it will sink about 80 millimeter. And in the worst case scenario, we will not be able to visit this city of romance and beauty after 2100, as it's expected to be underwater till then. So it's the end of today's video. I hope now you have a clear image of Mose in your mind. Tell us in the comments your thoughts about this expensive $7 billion project. Is this going to save Vince and Lagoon in the coming decades? Or is it just a waste of money? Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and family.